Phil Hartman, who gained fame on Saturday Night Live, was found shot dead in his home.
What are the chances, out of all the ways a life can end, that certain stories would unfold in almost the exact same way? Different cities, different decades, different lives. And yet, when you look closely, the parallels feel chilling. Not because they prove fate or curses, not because they suggest some hidden design, but because coincidence, when repeated, can feel almost impossible to ignore. Tonight, we're stepping into a series of strange, eerie, and deeply tragic celebrity deaths that share haunting similarities. These are not connected by friendship, location, or collaboration. They're connected by circumstance, by method, by timing, and sometimes by a final, devastating misunderstanding. Let's begin with two luminous stars whose lives ended in dark water. In November 1981, Natalie Wood was aboard a yacht off Catalina Island.
Well, it's easy with the boat because you can get on the boat and within minutes, you're away and it's peaceful.
She was one of Hollywood's brightest talents, known for her emotional depth and on-screen presence. Yet despite her glamorous career, she carried a lifelong fear of deep water. Friends had recalled her anxiety about it. That night, after an argument reportedly erupted on board, she disappeared. Hours later, she was found floating in the Pacific Ocean. The official ruling was accidental drowning, though questions lingered for decades. She was just 43 years old. 4 years later, in 1985, actress Carol Wayne, known for her comedic appearances on The Tonight Show, was vacationing in Mexico.
I personally find that I do better just being myself. But I'll tell you, everything I do turns out kind of funny.
She too reportedly feared water and could not swim. She too had been seen arguing with her partner shortly before she vanished. And she too was later found floating in the ocean, fully clothed. Her death was ruled accidental drowning. Two actresses, two arguments, two women afraid of water, two bodies discovered in the Pacific. Both deaths ruled accidental despite circumstances that sparked suspicion. The ocean claimed them both in eerily similar fashion. Then there were the comedians whose audiences laughed through their final moments.
Made me wear my boxing gloves so I wouldn't bite my fingernails.
In 1984, legendary British entertainer Tommy Cooper was performing live on television. Known for his physical comedy and signature fez, he was mid-routine when he suddenly collapsed. The audience roared with laughter, believing it was part of the act. Minutes passed before anyone realized something was truly wrong. He had suffered a fatal heart attack on live television while millions watched unaware. 35 years later, in 2019, British stand-up comic Ian Cognito was performing at a small comedy club. Just minutes before, he had joked about having a heart attack. Then he sat down, leaned back, and stopped moving. The audience laughed, assuming it was performance art. Several minutes went by before someone called for help. He too had suffered a fatal heart attack during his act. Same country, same profession, same tragic misunderstanding. The audience believed it was comedy. It wasn't. History offers even older parallels. In 1911, conductor Felix Model collapsed while leading a performance of Wagner's Tristan and Isolde in Munich. He suffered a heart attack at the podium and died days later. 57 years afterward, in 1968, conductor Joseph Kaelberth collapsed in the exact same opera house, conducting the exact same opera, standing in nearly the exact same spot. He too suffered a fatal heart attack. Two conductors, same composer, same opera, same city, decades apart.
Secretary, I must say I found your presentation here this morning somewhat disingenuous.
Politics has not been immune to eerie parallels either. In 2008, Senator Ted Kennedy announced he had been diagnosed with glioblastoma, an aggressive brain cancer. He continued working, even returning for crucial Senate votes, before his passing in August 2009. 9 years later, Senator John McCain announced he had been diagnosed with the same cancer. He too returned for major Senate votes during intense healthcare debates, and he too passed away on August 25th, exactly 9 years to the day after Kennedy's death. Same illness, same Senate chamber, same calendar date. Then there are the murder-suicides that mirror one another in devastating ways. In 1998, comedian Phil Hartman, beloved for his work on Saturday Night Live, was shot while asleep by his wife who struggled with substance abuse. After killing him, she took her own life. 11 years later, in 2009, former NFL quarterback Steve McNair was shot while asleep by his girlfriend, who then turned the gun on herself. In both cases, a deteriorating relationship, substance abuse issues, the victim asleep, the shooter dying by suicide immediately after. Different states, different lives, the same tragic pattern. Ski slopes have produced their own haunting coincidences. On December 31, 1997, Michael Lemoyne Kennedy, son of Robert F. Kennedy, died in a skiing accident after colliding with a tree in Aspen. 6 days later, singer-turned-politician Sonny Bono also died after crashing into a tree while skiing in California. 2 men, 2 trees, 2 ski resorts, 6 days apart. Addiction has left its own grim symmetry. In 1966, comedian Lenny Bruce was found dead from a heroin overdose, a needle still in his arm. In 2004, actor Robert Pastorelli was discovered in his bathroom from a heroin overdose, needle still present. In 2014, Academy Award-winning actor Philip Seymour Hoffman was found in his bathroom, dead from heroin toxicity, a needle in his arm. 3 gifted performers, 3 bathrooms, 3 needles, decades apart. Addiction does not discriminate by era or talent. Even quieter deaths share unsettling similarities. In 1983, actor Michael Whitney suffered a fatal heart attack while sitting down to dinner with his daughter in New York City. In 2003, writer John Gregory Dunn collapsed from a fatal heart attack while sitting down to dinner with his wife in New York City. 2 men, 2 meals, 2 sudden heart attacks before the first bite. So what do we make of all this? Are these cosmic patterns, statistical inevitabilities, or simply the human tendency to find narrative in coincidence? When similar deaths occur across decades, our minds instinctively search for meaning. We compare ages, circumstances, final words, and locations. We draw lines between events that were never connected in life. Perhaps that impulse says more about us than about fate. Because beneath the eerie parallels lies something profoundly human: vulnerability. Heart attacks strike without warning. Addiction devastates across generations. Water does not care about fame. Guns do not care about talent. Trees do not move for politicians or musicians. Illness does not respect power or legacy. These stories remind us that celebrity does not equal immunity. It does not shield against illness, conflict, addiction, or accident. In fact, public lives often mask private struggles. The stage lights shine brightly, but they do not eliminate darkness behind the scenes. And yet, there's something else in these stories beyond tragedy. There is the reminder that life is fragile and unpredictable, that laughter can turn into silence in an instant, that ordinary nights can become final chapters, that routine moments, boarding a boat, stepping onto a stage, casting a Senate vote, skiing down a slope, can become historic without warning. It's easy to focus on the strangeness of the parallels, the curse, the coincidence, the eerie repetition. But perhaps the deeper thread tying these stories together is not fate, it's humanity. Every one of these individuals had lived full, complicated lives before their final moments. They created art, they served their communities, they made audiences laugh, they inspired fans. Their deaths may share similarities, but their lives were uniquely their own. When we look at these cases side by side, it's tempting to see pattern as destiny. But coincidence, especially across millions of lives and decades of history, is statistically inevitable. The world is vast. Tragedy repeats in different forms. The human experience contains recurring themes: love, ambition, addiction, illness, conflict, risk. Maybe what unsettles us is not the repetition itself, but the reminder that none of us know how our story ends. We want explanations. We want order. We want assurance that chaos is controlled. But life does not promise symmetry or fairness. Sometimes it simply echoes. So when multiple stars die in the same freakish way, perhaps the question is not whether fate is playing games, but why we are so compelled to find meaning in the repetition. Maybe it's because meaning offers comfort. If there's a pattern, then perhaps there is understanding. And if there's understanding, maybe there's control. But sometimes, there's only coincidence. What remains undeniable is this: behind every eerie similarity, every headline that grouped their names together, every whispered theory and late-night discussion, there was a real person, a beating heart, a laugh that filled rooms, a family who knew them not as a story, but as a son, a daughter, a sibling, a friend. There were inside jokes only their closest circle understood. There were dreams sketched out in notebooks, plans half-spoken over dinner tables, goals they were still chasing with quiet determination, talent that had only just begun to unfold, potential that stretched far beyond the moment that ultimately defined them in the public eye. It's easy for us to focus on the mystery, the patterns, the strange similarities that make events feel larger than life. Our minds are drawn to puzzles. We search for connections. We analyze timelines and details. But in doing so, we risk reducing vibrant human lives to a single haunting chapter. And that chapter, no matter how shocking or heartbreaking, was never the whole story. Each of them lived days filled with ordinary beauty, morning routines, late-night conversations, creative sparks, quiet struggles overcome. They loved, they failed, they learned, they laughed. They left impressions on people that statistics can't measure and coincidences can't explain. The way they showed up for someone in a hard moment, the way their voice sounded when they were excited, the unique perspective only they could offer. Perhaps that's where our focus should rest, not on the strangeness of how they died, but on the richness of how they lived. Because while death may echo in similar ways, life is singular, deeply personal, and impossible to duplicate. And that singularity, the irreplaceable imprint of a human soul, is something no coincidence can ever replicate.